The reconnaissance cruiser, Nycteris, screamed through the smog-cloaked atmosphere of Orvan 6 like a shard of glass in a blender. Its hull glowed white-hot, engines overclocked past safe threshold. Inside, Lieutenant Rhoen slammed a fist into the override panel, teeth clenched. Pressure seals dropping. Left stabilizer gone, barked the onboard AI. Yeah, I noticed, he shouted back, voice hoarse. His visor flickered. Oxygen mix spiked. Smoke curled through the cockpit like dying incense. To his right, the co-pilot chair was empty. It had been since Vega died 12 hours ago, shredded by a rail burst before they even made atmospheric entry. Rhoen hadn't even had time to close her eyes. Below them, the terrain loomed, jagged ridges of volcanic basalt, choked forests of bone-ash trees, and glowing veins of what looked like bioluminescent fungus spreading like a sickness across the surface. The ship bucked hard. Something tore off, a stabilizer fin, maybe. He didn't care. He was flying her down, or dying with her. Brace for contact, the AI muttered, now eerily calm. Rhoen gritted his teeth, angled the nose down, and throttled back. The crash wasn't silent. It never was. The Nycteris skipped once off a ridge, then slammed into a crater basin in a riot of sparks and shrieking metal. The world went white. He woke to heat. The cockpit was smoking, red emergency lights strobing like dying stars. His helmet cracked. Blood tickled the corner of his mouth. But he was alive. For now. Suit integrity, 63%, the AI whispered. Warning, lifeforms detected. Proximity 400 meters and closing. Rhoen groaned, unlatched himself, and crawled out through the jagged breach in the ship's side. Outside, the sky glowed amber, the clouds swirling unnaturally in layered spirals. Something was wrong with this place. It didn't just look quarantined. It felt angry. The crater's edge shimmered. Movement. Rhoen raised his sidearm. And froze. She was standing there. Or rather, crouched. A silhouette framed in heat shimmer. Her eyes glinted violet in the haze, and her outline was all angles, sharp armor, toned limbs, a long, segmented tail that twitched like a blade waiting to strike. Not human. She didn't speak. Just stared. He leveled the pistol. Identify yourself. She didn't flinch. Instead, she stepped forward slowly and tapped a device on her collar. Her voice came out rough, processed, but unmistakably female. You're in the wrong sky, Terran. He squinted. And you're not supposed to exist. The violet-eyed stranger tilted her head. Welcome to Orvan, she said. You've just become a problem. And then she was gone, a blur of motion, vanished into the ash forest like smoke on the wind. Rhoen staggered to the wreckage, his boots crunching across scorched obsidian and cracked alloy plating. His legs screamed with every step, dislocated or worse, but he didn't stop. Survival first. Pain later. He pulled a half-burned medpack from the shattered wall, tore it open with gritted teeth, and injected a stabilizer into his thigh. The burn hit like liquid fire, but he straightened. The AI's voice crackled weakly from the calm. Warning. Environmental bioforms approaching. Quadrant northwest. Estimated. Static. Then silence. He was alone. Except for her. The memory of those violet eyes stayed in his mind like an afterimage. There was a precision to her stillness, a predator's calm. She didn't look like the standard Varn-class alien soldiers described in the old war logs. She was sleeker. Younger. But trained. And more importantly, she understood him. That meant she had tech. Language uplinks. And that made her more dangerous than anything he'd prepared for. Rhoen dragged what he could from the wreck, a half-charged arc pistol, 2 rations, and a broken stealth beacon. He clipped the pistol to his hip and limped toward the crater rim. No shelter in sight. No way to send a clean signal. Just twisted jungle. He'd been dropped into hell. The sun, or what passed for one, was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the bone grass. That's when he heard it again. Not a voice. A vibration. Rhythmic. Like footsteps. Measured. Soft. He whirled, pistol raised. Too late. She tackled him from the left, silent as a ghost, her weight driving him into the ash. His pistol clattered away. A knee pressed into his ribs. Something sharp brushed his throat, not a blade. A claw. Who sent you? She hissed. Rhoen growled, chin tilted defiantly. I don't take orders from specters. Her expression didn't change. But her tail tightened slightly behind her. She leaned closer, her breath hot through the voice filter. You're Terran military, she said. And you're supposed to be extinct. She smirked, a flash of sharp teeth. Then she rose off him in one fluid motion and backed away. Rhoen didn't move. I don't kill ghosts, she said. But I'll bury trespassers. He coughed. Then why am I still breathing? She hesitated. For now, I want to see if you bleed like the rest. Then she was gone again. A blur of motion swallowed by blackened leaves. But she'd left something behind. At the edge of the crater, barely visible in the fading light, was a small obsidian token. A Varn tracking shard. Old war currency. Outlawed across 5 sectors. And it pulsed faintly with heat. She'd marked him. Rhoen's heart pounded. She'd just claimed him as bait. Or worse, as a test. Night on Orvan 6 didn't fall. It bled. The sky turned ink black in under 10 minutes, as if someone had shut the sun off with a switch. Rhoen cursed under his breath and quickened his limp, moving downhill into the ravine past the crater. The jungle around him pulsed with bioluminescent fungi, cool greens, eerie blues, and veins of violet that flickered like dying stars. The shard she'd left, the obsidian token, was warm in his pocket. It vibrated every few minutes. Not enough to track by satellite, but enough to spook local predators. A signature. A warning. Or a lure. Rhoen ducked beneath a low tree twisted in calcified vines. Every instinct screamed at him to keep moving, but his body had limits. He found a hollow beneath the roots of a split tree and slumped inside, back pressed to the gnarled bark. Still no sign of drones. No Terran patrol. Just him. And her. He rotated the shard between his fingers. It had old war glyphs etched into it, Varn war script. He didn't know how to read it, but something about the way it glowed reminded him of mission briefings about deep bond rituals. Tracking tokens. Claim marks. But that didn't make sense. Why would a hostile mark him? Unless she was? The roots above him shifted. Rhoen froze. Then her voice. Fire will attract them. Don't be stupid. She dropped into the hollow silently, crouched like a shadow peeled from the canopy. Her armor wasn't standard issue Varn. It was custom, hand-forged. Matte black with blue filament seams that throbbed faintly. Her face was half covered by a veil, the filter integrated into the left cheek. Only her eyes were visible. Those eyes. Violet. Luminous. Unblinking. You're following me, he muttered. No, she said. You're slow. He almost smirked. What do you want from me? You dropped fire metal into my hunting path. That makes you mine. Excuse me? Her head tilted. That's the law here. Rhoen blinked. I'm not from here. Exactly. She reached out without warning and pressed her fingers against the wound on his leg. He hissed and grabbed her wrist. She didn't flinch. You're dying slow. That's not useful. Useful for what? She didn't answer. Instead, she slipped a canister from her belt and injected something into his thigh. Ice shot through his veins. His leg spasmed. Neuro rebinder, she said. Stupid Terran tech ignores muscle weave. He glared at her, but the pain was already fading. His muscles relaxed. Breathing steadied. What's your name? He asked. She hesitated. A flicker behind her eyes. Then, Sela. Rhoen. She didn't offer a hand. Just sat across from him, knees pulled up, watching the jungle. They'll come for you, she said softly. The ones who sent you. Or worse, the ones who were watching when you fell. Let them. She glanced at him sharply. You really don't know what you're carrying, do you? He frowned. I lost the cargo. It burned in the crash. No, she said. Not cargo. Data. You're bleeding with it. Can't you feel it? He stared at her. And that's when it clicked. The mission file. The encrypted drone that fused into his NAV rig after Vega died. It hadn't uploaded. It had merged. Sela nodded like she read his mind. Yeah, she said. You're the payload now. The silence stretched. Rhoen's breath caught in his throat as he processed Sela's words. I'm the payload? Sela nodded, slow and solemn. The crash didn't destroy the drone. It embedded into your suit. Then your skin. I smelled the resonance. That's why I didn't kill you. How generous. She ignored the jab. Her gaze was locked on his chest, not with curiosity, but with something closer to calculation. What kind of data? He asked. Her eyes flicked to his. If I knew, I wouldn't still be sitting here. He slumped against the roots, mind racing. The drone had been a last-minute addition. High-priority intel from a covert satellite sweep near the old border. Command called it a containment sweep, but Rhoen knew their language too well. It was a hunt. And now, whatever they'd found, it was inside him. Sela stood suddenly, tail flicking behind her. They'll smell it too. Who? The ones who watch from above, she said. And the ones who want the old war back. He narrowed his eyes. I thought this planet was uninhabited. It's not. Her voice was flat. They buried their dead in these forests. They buried secrets deeper. Lightning flashed through the sky, illuminating the trees in a ghostly blue. Thunder rolled seconds later, not a natural storm, but atmospheric disruption. Dropships. She turned toward the sound, jaw tight. We have to move. He pushed to his feet, legs shaky but functional thanks to her injection. You're serious about all this? You still think this is just a recon gone wrong? She stepped toward him, the glow from her suit seams reflecting in her eyes. You're part of something now. You just haven't earned the right to know what yet. He almost laughed. You're cryptic. You always like playing the mystery card? She leaned in, inches from his face. I'm still deciding if I like you alive. For a moment neither moved. The tension between them wasn't just tactical, it was chemical. Her heat. His instinct. The air between them buzzed like a charge waiting to snap. Then she turned and scaled the tree above their root shelter with terrifying ease. Follow or die, she called down. Not much of a choice. He scrambled after her, climbing slower, less graceful, his suit groaning. They moved fast through the canopy, jumping from limb to limb as the dropship engines drew closer, their artificial gravity fields distorting the leaves beneath them. By the time the first searchlights swept the forest floor, they were already gone, vanished into the folds of the night. They stopped at a small cliffside overlook just before dawn. Below them, nestled between two ravines, was a stone enclave, half ruined, moss-covered, but still pulsing with faint energy. It looked ancient. Sela crouched, scanning the perimeter. It's clean. Rhoen collapsed against a stone pillar, his chest heaving. She studied him again. You're adapting too fast. He glanced up. What? You're not supposed to survive this long with tech like that in you. He frowned. Maybe I'm just stubborn. No, she said quietly. Maybe you're not just human anymore. The Enclave was older than any structure Rhoen had seen, and he'd seen ruins on 7 colonized worlds. This wasn't architecture, it was grown. The stone had veins, fossil-like spirals that pulsed faintly beneath layers of moss. Everything about the place gave off the quiet pressure of a temple that had once been alive. Place gives me the creeps, Rhoen muttered, tracing a fingertip along the edge of a spiraled carving. Sela didn't respond. She knelt near what looked like a dais in the center of the open court. Her fingers traced the symbols there, familiar, too familiar. Rhoen squinted. You've been here before. Sela's expression didn't shift. My kind built this. He straightened. You're Varn. Half, she said. And what's left of that half is dying. Rhoen exhaled, mind shifting through old briefings. The Varn weren't wiped out, not completely, but they'd been driven into quarantines, erased from public records after the Geneva collapse. Officially, no pure-blood Varn had been sighted in 2 decades. So what's this place to you? She looked up at him. Her voice, when it came, was almost reverent. This was a cradle. We trained here, before the treaties. Before the betrayals. It's dead now, like everything else tied to my people. Rhoen walked toward her. Why bring me here, then? Because it still listens. She laid a hand on the stone. And the floor responded. A soft hum filled the court. Faint light seeped from the carvings, illuminating them in glowing purple threads. The dais pulsed once, and the glyphs flared, briefly forming a spiral pattern that radiated out across the courtyard. Bioresonance field, Sela explained. The stone reacts to genetic memory. Varn blood wakes it. Rhoen took a step back. So this whole thing's alive? In a way, she said. It remembers trauma. He looked down at his hands, at the faint pulsing under his skin, where the drone had fused. And now I'm walking trauma, he muttered. Sela didn't disagree. She moved to a bench carved directly from the inner wall, then began unstrapping her gloves. Her claws were shorter than he expected, more like retractable talons than true weapons. Deliberate. Controlled. You didn't ask what the data is, she said suddenly. He shrugged. I figured you'd tell me when I needed to know. That earned him a sharp look. But also, surprisingly, a small nod of approval. I think it's the registry, she said. The real one. Rhoen frowned. Registry? Of all the experiments done during the silence years. Splice trials, gene drives, extinction programs. Everything Command did off the books. He whistled low. And now it's in me. Maybe not just in you, she said. It might be you. That sent a chill down his spine. So what do we do? Sela rose, eyes glowing faintly violet in the temple light. We find out why they need it back so badly. And then we decide whether the galaxy gets to see what's buried in your blood. Rhoen stood too. Together? She stared at him for a long moment. Then she stepped close, not touching, but near enough to feel her breath. If you slow me down, she said, voice low, I'll leave you. If you leave me, he said back, I'll follow. Something shifted in her expression. Not soft, never soft, but less guarded. Then she turned and walked toward the passage deeper into the enclave. Rhoen followed her into the dark. The tunnel beneath the enclave was narrow and sloped downward, the walls alive with veins of faint purple and green bioluminescence. Rhoen ran his fingers along the stone. It vibrated faintly under his touch, almost like it recognized him. He didn't like that. Why does the stone react to me? He asked, keeping his voice low as they moved through the twisting corridor. Sela glanced back. It shouldn't. Not unless your genetic code has already begun adapting. Rhoen's stomach twisted. Adapting? To the data, she said simply. You weren't just carrying it. You were binding with it. The resonance signature is identical to mine now. That doesn't sound like intel. That sounds like infection. She stopped suddenly and turned. Then maybe it's both. Ahead, the tunnel opened into a cavern the size of a Starliner hangar. Roots coiled down from the ceiling like skeletal fingers, glowing with internal fire. In the center of the chamber stood a massive tree, or what had once been a tree. Its bark was blackened and split, glowing like emberstone. It pulsed with heat, the same way the obsidian shard in his pocket did. Rhoen's mouth went dry. That isn't natural. It's Varn flamewood, Sela said softly. It only grows in places where something died violently. Places where memory burns. He approached the base of the tree slowly, reverently. As he neared it, the pulse beneath his skin began to throb. His hands trembled. Something's happening. Sela was already moving, circling the tree's base. Watching its pulse, her claws twitching. It's responding to your presence. Suddenly, pain exploded behind Rhoen's eyes. He collapsed to his knees, gasping. Visions flashed across his mind, not memories, not his, but fragments. Needles. Screaming. Metallic restraints. A child crying. A name, not his, etched into a blood-soaked collar, Unit 91A. Sela knelt beside him, grabbing his shoulders. Breathe through it. The tree is remembering you. I don't want to remember, he gasped. But it's not a choice anymore. The visions kept coming. An operating table. Fluorescent lights. A voice saying, stabilize the hybrid. If the Varn genome holds, we'll move to clinical trials. Rhoen's eyes snapped open. They used your people. They spliced you into test subjects. Sela's face was pale, ears flattened tight against her skull. I know. He turned to her, rage rising through the nausea. You knew and you still work with us? I don't work with anyone, she said coldly. I hunt. And until now, I thought I was the only survivor of the trials. He stared at her. You're telling me I'm part Varn? Not exactly, she said. You're something they made after us. A carrier. A living cipher keyed to ancient code. Why would they put data in a person? Because flesh doesn't set off alarms the way files do. He looked down at his hands, steady now, but no longer fully his. So what am I now? Sela leaned in close. You're a truth they'll kill to bury. The tree pulsed again, brighter this time. And with it came a low growl, not from memory. From the far side of the cavern. Sela's ears twitched. She rose instantly. They tracked us. A shape emerged from the far tunnel. Then another. Then 6 more. Tall. Heavy. Armored. Not soldiers, reclaimers. Genetically engineered cleaners sent to destroy compromised assets. Run? Rhoen asked. No, she said, drawing her twin blades, violet energy arcing between them. Now we burn them. Rhoen didn't remember standing, only that suddenly he was on his feet, adrenaline flooding his limbs. The reclaimers moved with machine precision, no wasted motion, no hesitation. Their armor glinted like oil under the glow of the flamewood tree. They weren't soldiers. They were executioners. 10 seconds, Sela said flatly. Then they opened fire. How do you know? They don't speak. They calculate. She stepped forward and crossed her blades. The energy hummed, growing in pitch. Then the reclaimers charged. The first leapt across the root cluster like a predator. Rhoen barely raised his pistol in time. He fired once, and the shot glanced off its armor like sparks off stone. Useless, Sela muttered. Aim for the joints. She twisted sideways and drove her right blade into the shoulder seam of the charging reclaimer, slicing straight through the carbon muscle beneath. It dropped without a sound, sparking violently. 2 more flanked her. One raised a heavy plasma saw. Rhoen reacted without thinking. He dove, rolled, and slammed his pistol into the reclaimer's exposed side, pulling the trigger until the battery overloaded. The core burst in a white-hot pop. The machine jerked backward and collapsed. Didn't think that would work, he muttered. Sela flipped backward as another reclaimer slashed at her head. She ducked under the swing, sliced its knee in half, and twisted her second blade up through its visor. They didn't bleed. They just died, silently, efficiently. They're not here to capture, Rhoen said, panting. They're here to erase. Sela nodded grimly. Because you're already leaking. He stared at her. What? Your blood, she said. The fusion point is unstable. The data is transmitting now. He touched his temple. That explained the headache, the static crawling under his scalp. Then we have to shut it down. No time, Sela said, spinning her blades. We have to finish this and get you to a shielded relay. Before your heartbeat becomes a broadcast beacon. Another reclaimer lunged at her. This one was larger, bulkier. She tried to sidestep, but it caught her across the ribs with a forearm the size of a beam post. Sela grunted, hitting the ground hard. Sela! Rhoen charged. He launched himself onto the reclaimer's back, slamming the remains of his melted pistol into the base of its neck. Sparks flew, but the thing barely flinched. Sela recovered first. She swept its leg from beneath with a wide spin and jammed a blade into the socket behind its shoulder. The reclaimer twitched, locked, then crumpled. You good? Rhoen panted. Bruise, she said, pressing a palm to her ribs. Her claws were soaked in oil. But moving! By the time the last two reclaimers dropped, one sliced apart at the waist, the other blasted point blank with an overcharged rifle battery. The entire chamber reeked of melted armor and scorched stone. The flamewood tree pulsed. Then something shifted in the walls. A doorway opened. No visible mechanism, just the stone folding back like breath, revealing a dark stairwell that dropped further beneath the surface. Sela stared at it, expression unreadable. That wasn't opened before, Rhoen said. No, she whispered. It was waiting. For me? For us, she corrected. Because you activated it. Because the blood in your veins is no longer yours alone. Rhoen took a step toward the opening. Then what's down there? Sela sheathed her blades and stepped in beside him. Answers. Or extinction. Together, they descended. The stairs coiled downward in a slow, spiraling descent, carved from the same luminous stone that made up the enclave. The glow dimmed the deeper they went, until only Sela's faint armor light and Rhoen's HUD illuminated the passage. The air was thick, damp, heavy with pressure. Rhoen kept a hand on the wall to steady himself. This feels like a tomb. Sela didn't look back. It is. Below them, the tunnel opened into a vast circular chamber, a vault. Its walls were etched with ancient Varn script, not glowing, not dormant, but alive, pulsing slowly, like breath. Symbols rippled across the stone like water disturbed by wind. At the center stood a column of suspended crystal, at least 2 stories high. Inside, suspended in amber-like fluid, was a humanoid figure, tall, lithe, featureless. No mouth. No eyes. Just a blank face and a body crisscrossed with glowing veins. Rhoen froze. What the hell is that? Sela stepped forward, her voice quieter than he'd ever heard. It's a vault seer. He turned to her. Seer? She nodded. Varn didn't believe in gods. We believed in memory. This is a biological archive. Pure Varn DNA, fused with memory seal tech. They don't think. They remember. And that thing's still alive? She didn't answer. The crystal pulse intensified as they approached. Rhoen's skin tingled. Suddenly, the vault went still. Every glow stopped. Every pulse faded. And then, a voice. It wasn't sound. It wasn't speech. It was inside Rhoen's head. You carry the breach. Rhoen gasped. He staggered back, clutching his temples. Sela. She grabbed his shoulder. I hear it too. You were made without consent. Grown without legacy. A wound given flesh. What the hell is this? Rhoen grunted. You are not alone. There are more. Seeds. Scattered. Buried. Forgotten. The seer's head tilted slightly in the crystal. But now one walks the surface. Wakes the blood. Stirs the flame. Sela stepped forward, fists clenched. Why now? Why him? Because they sent him here. Because he was never meant to leave. The glow returned. Symbols relit. Then, with a low hiss, the crystal column cracked, not violently, but deliberately, like a shell splitting. Fluid drained. The figure inside slumped forward. Rhoen stepped back instinctively. It fell to its knees, then slowly lifted its head. The face was still blank. But a faint glow traced its surface, 2 violet lines, mimicking eyes. Sela's breath caught. It's sinking, she whispered. Rhoen raised his pistol. With what? With you. The vault seer turned toward Rhoen fully. Its head tilted, then bowed low, in reverence. Submission. Your pain is ancient. Your birth stolen. Your truth weaponized. Rhoen's voice cracked. Then what am I? You are memory. You are rebellion. You are the proof they never wanted found. And with that, the vault seer placed its hand on the stone wall. A section opened. Inside, sealed behind layers of shielding and genetic locks, was a black sphere. It hovered untouched, humming. Sela stepped forward slowly. Is that what they're chasing? The seer responded with only one phrase. The key to ending the bloodline wars. Rhoen reached out, hesitated, then touched the sphere. Pain shot through him like fire. Memories not his own, thousands of them, rushed in. Spliced children in tanks. Flesh pulled from bone. DNA grafted onto unwilling hosts. And beneath it all, a face. A Terran general. His father. Rhoen dropped to one knee, breathing hard, hands still on the sphere. Stop, Sela said, gripping his wrist. You're burning. But he didn't let go. Couldn't. The memories kept pouring in, not just images, but sensations, instincts, voices, all bleeding into his neural net like he was a hard drive without walls. He saw a lab. White floors, glass chambers. Rows of children, engineered, sedated, catalogued. Each marked with a different classification. A through D. He was in the wing. Alphagen, Varn splice trials. He saw himself, smaller, younger. Wires in his arms. A woman in a medical coat whispering to him, not cruelly, but methodically. You'll be the proof, Rhoen. The one that fixes what we broke. He yanked his hand from the sphere, gasping. Blood trickled from his nose. Sela knelt beside him, claws out, but not threatening. Protective. You saw it? She asked. He nodded. My birth wasn't natural. I wasn't even born. I was printed from the remains of an off-record Varn soldier. The rest of me, it's him. Sela stiffened. Who? My father. General Kale Rhoen. Architect of the Splice Accord. Her breath caught. The one who ordered the sterilization of the outer rings. Rhoen wiped the blood from his face. Yeah. That one. Sela rose, pacing the vault's edge. Her voice shook with tightly held rage. I lost my mother in that purge. They firebombed whole settlements, claimed it was to contain genetic anomalies. But it was a cleansing. I didn't know, Rhoen said. You weren't meant to. She stopped, staring at him. And now they're afraid you'll remember. That you'll talk. He nodded. Or worse, that I'll leak. This sphere? It's not just memories. It's a live signal. A failsafe. Failsafe for what? Exposing everything. If it gets uplinked to a major relay, every database, every archive, every network node will receive a complete unredacted data blast. Sela's eyes widened. It'll tear the Alliance in half. And erase every lie they built. For a long moment, they stood in silence. Then Sela walked to the sphere and placed her palm against it. Her claws retracted, gentle. The orb pulsed once, reading her biosignature, then floated toward Rhoen. It chooses you, she whispered. Even the stone knows whose blood runs hottest. Rhoen caught the orb, cradling it against his chest. It was light, impossibly light for something that carried a civilization's crimes. Suddenly, the vault lights flickered. An alarm tone, low, guttural, echoed through the walls. Sela spun. Someone triggered a perimeter breach. Rhoen looked up. Another reclaimer wave? No, she said, sniffing the air. Worse. Vorn Syndicate. His blood ran cold. Mercenaries? No, she replied, drawing her blades. They're worse than mercs. They're collectors. Black market flesh traders who deal in classified DNA. They'd been chasing rumors of you for years. How the hell did they find us? Sela's voice was tight. They were listening. The second you touched that core, every outlaw relay within 5 systems heard the ping. The sphere pulsed again, faster now. And now they know. Rhoen muttered. Yeah, she said grimly, eyes narrowing. And they're not here to negotiate. They sealed the vault just as the first explosive charge hit the enclave above. The blast echoed through the stone like a thunderclap, shaking dust from the ceiling and sending fissures crawling down the walls. The flamewood roots above them flared crimson. Sela shoved Rhoen toward the lower corridor. Back route. This place has emergency egress, old blood law. He clutched the orb tight, letting its warmth anchor his nerves. How many? Vorn's squads usually work in sixes, she said, sprinting ahead. But for you? They'll bring 12. Maybe more. They raced through the dark, Sela navigating without hesitation. The passage narrowed, then forked. She veered left without slowing. Why would Mercs want me? Rhoen asked. She glanced back. They don't want you. They want your parts. He grimaced. Not comforting. They'll harvest the data core from your spinal cord, flay your memory layers, and sell your bone marrow to the highest geneticist on the blacknet. Comfort's not the business they're in. More explosions echoed behind them. They're breaching fast, Rhoen said. They move like a plague, she muttered. But they don't know these tunnels. We do. Another blast rocked the corridor, closer this time. They're mapping us in real time, Rhoen said, realization dawning. They're using trace crawlers. Micro-drones. Sela cursed under her breath. They'll corner us before we reach the ridgeline. He looked down at the orb. Can this thing jam them? Only for a few minutes. Why? He stopped. What are you doing? She barked. I'm ending the trail. He pulled a plasma charge from his belt and slammed it into the wall's root cluster. This tunnel's laced with memory veins. You said it yourself? What burns remembers. Sela's eyes widened. Rhoen. He activated the charge. The roots lit up like blood vessels struck by lightning. Flames surged backward, toward the vault, catching memory script on fire. The pulse screamed through the stone, a roar of soundless language. Then, boom! The entire rear corridor collapsed behind them in a cascade of stone and ember. Silence followed. Then a cough. Rhoen staggered, coughing smoke. Sela pulled him forward and slapped a breath mask onto his face. You just destroyed a 10,000-year-old archive, she muttered. And bought us 5 minutes, he said through the filter. You're welcome. She didn't argue. They moved fast now, emerging into a narrow ridge path overlooking the low jungle basin. The sky had turned ochre, storm fronts rolling in from the eastern cliffs. Wind howled. Sela crouched at the ledge and scanned the ravine below. Rhoen joined her. Half a dozen Vorn skimmers floated into view, matte black, with antennae bristling like porcupines. No emblems. No registration codes. Gutter-class hunters, she whispered. Each holds a squad of gene extractors and suppression hounds. And we can't fight them all. Not here, she said. But there's a relay tower buried under that ridge. She pointed southeast, to a slope where broken trees spiraled into a sinkhole. We tap that, uplink the orb, and the whole galaxy sees what they did. Rhoen hesitated. That means we become targets forever. Sela didn't blink. We already are. He looked down at the orb. It pulsed once strong. Certain. Then let's make it count. Sela turned to him, eyes wild with adrenaline. You ready to burn the whole lie down? Rhoen reached for her hand and gripped it tight. Let's set the stars on fire. Together they jumped from the ridge, into the storm, into war, into truth. The storm greeted them like a living beast. Wind howled through the canyons, flinging ash and shredded foliage into the air like shrapnel. The jungle below was chaos. Trees bowed sideways, thunder cracked low and constant, and the soil itself rippled under sheets of rain that sizzled on contact. Acid trace. Rhoen landed hard, rolled twice, and came up coughing. His armor hissed as the rain steamed against its surface. He tightened the seals at his collar. Storm's corrosive, he shouted. We need cover. Sela didn't answer, she was already moving. She dashed between twisted roots, her lithe frame cutting clean lines through the deluge. Rhoen followed, clutching the orb inside a reinforced chest sling. It throbbed like a heartbeat, faster now, guiding them, urging them towards something buried. Lightning lanced across the sky, too low, too close. EMP surge! Sela yelled. Don't trust tech from here on out. His HUD flickered, then went black. He ripped the visor off and stuffed it into a pouch. The relay tower wasn't marked on any map. Sela had learned of it through old Varn channels, whispers of forgotten signal posts beneath collapsed satellites. If they could reach it, they could link the orb. If they could link the orb, truth would ignite the galaxy. They reached the edge of the sinkhole just as the first Vorn skimmer descended behind them. Go, Sela said, panting. I'll delay. No, Rhoen snapped. We go together. She turned, soaked and fierce. You die, this was for nothing. We both die, they buried the truth again. She hesitated. That was all the skimmer needed. A net burst from its underside, shimmering, electric, and wrapped around Sela mid-sprint. She hit the ground hard, snarling, sparks dancing over her armor. Rhoen reached for his sidearm, then remembered it was slag during the Reclaimer fight. Move! She shouted. Instead, he ran toward her. The Vorn handler, a spindly figure in rust-orange armor, dropped from the skimmer with a serrated extractor blade in hand. His voice rasped through a cracked filter. Hybrid confirmed. Sample grade, Omega Red. Sela thrashed. I'll kill you last. He raised the blade. Rhoen slammed into him at full sprint. The blade skittered from the handler's grasp. Rhoen grabbed it midair and drove it upward into the handler's throat. The merc spasmed, dropped, and twitched once before falling still. Rhoen ripped the net open, hissing as it shocked his fingers. Sela rolled free, coughing. You're bleeding, she growled. Not important. It's always important. The orb flared bright, pulling now, magnetically tugging them toward a cracked ridge wall to their left. There, Rhoen said. It knows the way. More skimmers descended, distant now, but converging. Sela limped forward, then picked up speed. We've got one shot. They slid down the ridge and into the base of the sinkhole, where the ground gave way to obsidian plating. A buried disarray, ancient, overgrown with moss and stone. In the center, a signal relay half crushed, but still intact. Barely. Rhoen approached the uplink node. Do it, Sela urged. He reached forward, paused, then pressed the orb into the node. It clicked. Slid inward. Silence. Then, a deep pulse. The ground trembled. And above them, the clouds split. A beam of golden blue energy shot skyward, clean, bright, and visible from orbit. Transmission engaged, the relay AI whispered. Destination? Rhoen asked. Everywhere. Sela stepped beside him, soaked, wounded, eyes wide. You did it. He looked up, where a dozen skimmers were now retreating, pulling away from the light. They're running. They should, she said. They just lost the war. The light from the relay tower stretched into the heavens like a blade drawn across the void, a perfect, unbroken column of truth. Rhoen stared into the sky, watching the skimmers scatter like frightened birds. For the first time since the crash, the pressure in his chest loosened. It's done, he whispered. Sela didn't reply. She was still watching the beam, but her expression had changed. Not relief. Not pride. Worry. What? He asked. Her tail twitched, sharp, uneven. A tell he was starting to recognize. It's never just done, she said. He turned toward the relay. The orb was still embedded in the node, spinning slowly. The ground around it had begun to tremble again, subtly at first. Then stronger. Cracks formed in the obsidian plating beneath their feet. Sela stepped back. No! The relay shuddered. Metal groaned. The beam began to flicker. What's happening? Rhoen shouted. They left a trap in the signal. A kill chain failsafe. He stared at the orb. You're saying they booby-trapped the truth? Yes, she snapped. Old command protocol. If the data ever leaked, it would trigger a fallback response. What kind of response? She looked up. Orbital. Rhoen paled. How much time? As if in answer, a chime echoed across the ridge, deep, rhythmic, like a countdown. From overhead, the clouds pulsed once with faint red lightning. Sela's claws curled. That's a targeting lock. They're painting this position. They're going to erase it all. And us with it. He stepped toward the orb, reaching for it, but it was sealed now, embedded in the node like a root into flesh. We pull it? He asked. Sela shook her head. It's too late. The data's already gone. The pulse hit major relays. The truth's out, but the price is coming. A second chime. Sela turned, eyes darting. We need to move. Where? She pointed west. There's an old mineral shaft, deep enough to survive a low-orbit kinetic strike. Rhoen hesitated. Low-orbit? You sure? No, she said. But if they're sending something bigger, nothing survives. They ran. Behind them, the sky screamed. A silver line pierced the cloud cover, a lance of fire wrapped in black smoke. It roared down toward the relay like a divine guillotine. The kinetic weapon hit the site seconds later. The impact wasn't sound. It was force, like the planet exhaling its soul. Rhoen and Sela dove into the shaft mouth just as the shockwave hit, fire and stone collapsing the entrance behind them. Darkness swallowed them. The tunnel groaned. Dust rained down. Rhoen covered Sela's body with his own as rubble pelted them from above. Her arms curled instinctively around his back. Then stillness. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Sela coughed. Still breathing? He rolled off her, gasping. Barely. The faint blue light of her suit flickered back on, casting soft shadows across the tunnel wall. Her fur was singed along one flank. His arm was bleeding, a long gash across the forearm. But they were alive. You okay? He asked. She sat up slowly. Ask me tomorrow. They sat in the dark for a few minutes, catching their breath. Then Rhoen asked the question hanging between them. Did it work? Sela was quiet for a long time. Then, yes. The signal went out. He exhaled. But she didn't look relieved. If anything, her expression had hardened. You said something once, he muttered. That fire remembers. She nodded. Then so will they. Sela looked at him with something like sorrow. They already do. They spent the night beneath the earth, wrapped in fractured silence and the slow drip of condensation. Rhoen leaned against the tunnel wall, cradling his wounded arm, watching Sela as she cleaned a jagged shard of obsidian from her shoulder. Her movements were clinical, efficient, but not without pain. You're hurt, he said quietly. So are you. I'm used to it. She glanced at him. You shouldn't be. He looked away. It's the only thing I inherited. Silence again. Then, softly, do you regret it? Rhoen frowned. What? Releasing the data. Starting a war you can't see yet. He thought about that. About the orb. The tower. The light. About the children in the tanks, one of whom had been him. I regret not knowing sooner, he said. I regret how many died without that truth ever surfacing. Sela nodded slowly. Her voice dropped. Then you carry more than blood. He looked at her. What about you? She was quiet for a moment, then reached into a pouch at her belt and pulled out a thin silver ring, simple, unadorned. She turned it between two claws. I wasn't supposed to be a soldier, she said. Before the purges, my people, we were memory keepers. We told stories with our skin. We passed knowledge through scent, through song. I was born to be a lore singer. What changed? She placed the ring against her palm. They killed the choir. Rhoen closed his eyes. He didn't speak again until hours later, when the ground had cooled and the dust had settled. We need to surface. Sela was already standing, eyes sharp again. Agreed. If the signal made it to orbit, someone will come looking. You think they'll come to help? She smiled bitterly. No. But they'll come. They climbed for over an hour, the passage winding upward through cracked stone and ruined support beams. Finally, the tunnel split into two exits, one to the high forest, the other to a ridge plateau that overlooked the crater. They chose the ridge. When they emerged, dawn was breaking across Orvan 6. The sky was lavender. The air burned faintly with ozone and ash. And the relay site was gone, reduced to a crater of black glass and still glowing slag. The beam was gone, too, replaced by a smear of atmospheric distortion stretching all the way into orbit. Rhoen raised a hand to shield his eyes. Looks like we made a scene. Sela crouched near the edge, ears twitching. He moved beside her. What is it? Ships. He squinted. In the distance, 3 vessels hovered low across the tree line. Sleek, high velocity, no visible insignia. Not Vorn? He asked. No, she murmured. Worse. He tensed. How worse? She stood. Diplomatic Corps. The Alliance has arrived. Rhoen's stomach dropped. Wait, but if they're here, and they've seen the data. They didn't come to verify it, Sela said. They came to control it. A new voice echoed across the ridge. That's correct. They both spun. A woman stood behind them, tall, draped in a storm-gray cloak embroidered with 100 unseen insignia. Her skin shimmered faintly, a nano-adaptive armor beneath her clothing. Her eyes were silver. Rhoen Cass, she said, voice like steel through silk. Sela of the Split-Line Varn. I am Anva Marath of the Preservation Protocol. Sela drew her blades. Preservation? Yes, Marath said calmly. We preserve stability. At any cost. Rhoen stepped forward, wounded but steady. The truth is out. You can't bury it. Marath's expression didn't change. No, she said. But we can reframe it. Rhoen took a half step forward, fists clenched. You saw the relay flare. You know what was in that signal. Anva Marath offered a polite, almost apologetic nod. We intercepted it, yes. Simultaneously across 72 active relay networks. Impressive breadth, considering the relic tech he used. Sela didn't lower her blades. You're here to kill us. Marath didn't blink. We're here to mitigate fallout. How that's accomplished depends. Depends on what? Rhoen asked, though he already knew. On whether you're willing to cooperate with the reframing effort, Marath said. The data you leaked is volatile. Dangerous. Uncontextualized, it incites chaos. But presented properly. Spun, Sela snapped. Presented, Marath repeated. It can be molded into a message of restoration. Of unity. One that avoids triggering planetary revolts or galactic sanctions. And you expect me to help with that? Rhoen asked, incredulous. Marath's tone didn't shift. You are the son of General Kao Rhoen. Your face carries weight. Your bloodline, however complicated, still holds political value. You want me to stand beside a lie, just because I have the right last name? I want you to help avert a civil fracture between Terran sectors and outer species unions, Marath said coolly. Do that and you survive. You both do. Sela lowered her blade slightly, her voice like a growl. And if we refuse? Marath smiled faintly. Then you become martyrs. Dead ones. Rhoen stepped forward, eyes blazing. You said you preserve stability at any cost. But I know what that cost really is. I lived it. I'm aware, Marath said. Your trauma is regrettable. But policy isn't designed for emotional relief. It's designed for survival. Sela moved to stand beside Rhoen. Survival through silence isn't survival. It's surrender. Marath studied her. You speak for your people, then? I am my people, Sela said. The last of the lorekeepers. And the first to mate outside my caste. Marath's silver eyes narrowed slightly. Then I assume you know what your bonding with a Terran hybrid implies. Rhoen felt the heat rise in Sela's presence, the defensive tension, the flick of her tail. "You're carrying," Marith said simply. Rhoen's heart thudded. Sela didn't deny it. Marith exhaled, disappointed. "That complicates things." "No," Sela said. "It clarifies them." Marith's eyes flashed. "You'll be hunted for it. The child is a genetic wildcard. Neither species wants a bridge if that bridge destabilizes the wall between them." "Then we break the wall," Rhoen said. "You break it," Marith replied, "and everything collapses. Diplomacy. Trade. Peace." Rhoen looked her dead in the eye. "Then peace was already a lie." The wind shifted across the ridge. Behind Marith, her guard unit began to advance. Sela raised her blades again. "They're going to try and take us." "No," Marith said, tilting her head. "We're going to escort you. You'll come willingly or unconscious. Either way, we keep the galaxy from tearing itself apart." Rhoen turned to Sela. Her eyes were hard, but not afraid. "We can't win this fight," he said quietly. "No," she agreed. "Not here." Marith raised a hand. "Stand down. You've made the right." Rhoen drew the plasma charge from his belt and hurled it at the cliff wall behind them. It exploded in a flash of dust and fire, sending a shockwave through the ridge. Before the guards could react, Sela grabbed Rhoen's wrist and jumped, straight off the cliff's edge, into the forest below. Bullets ripped the air behind them. Gravity answered next. Arm flared with pain as he rolled through the underbrush. Sela landed cleaner, tucking into a low crouch, her blades drawn before she even stopped moving. Behind them, the ridge burned, smoke curling up into the lavender sky. But there were no pursuit sounds yet. No drones. They had seconds. Maybe less. Rhoen scrambled upright, the orb still cradled to his chest in the sling. His muscles screamed. His lungs burned. But he was alive. Sela moved to him instantly. "You good?" He nodded. "Hurting. Good. It means we're not ghosts yet." She scanned the trees. "There's an extraction point half a click east. Old Varn evac beacon buried in the roots. We reach it, we vanish." "Vanish where?" "Anywhere," she said. "Everywhere. But not here." They ran. The forest thickened, glowing with spores and fractured moonlight. Roots rose like claws from the ground. But the orb pulsed, guiding them, even without a network. It had memory. It had will. And it had chosen. The beacon was exactly where Sela promised, buried beneath an ancient shrine. Rhoen brushed moss aside and pressed his palm against the carved plate. The stone hissed open. Inside was a black transmitter, dormant but functional. Sela crouched, pulling a cylinder from her belt and slotting it into the uplink port. "It's not military," she said. "This one's Varn traced. It only answers to blood." She sliced her thumb open and pressed it against the sensor. The device lit up, pulsing red. "Where will it take us?" Rhoen asked. "Somewhere no map reaches." From above, thunder cracked. Then voices. "Close." Sela looked up. "Too late. They're tracking again." Rhoen pulled the orb from his chest, held it between them. "Then let's not run anymore." Sela frowned. "You want to fight now?" "No," he said. "I want to finish it." He pressed the orb to the transmitter. It snapped into place. The beacon roared to life, its pulse drilling into the earth, deep, ancient, loud. The sound wasn't mechanical. It was biological. The trees around them reacted, branches twitching, leaves curling inward. Sela took a step back. "You activated the sleeper net." "I thought it was an evac system." "It was. Until the reclaimers buried it." From the canopy above, the Alliance dropships broke through. Figures repelled from cables. Voices barked orders. And then they stopped. All of them. As the forest itself rose. Roots shot up from the ground, coiling around legs, tearing weapons from hands. Branches lanced through metal like paper. The jungle was awake, and it remembered who had scorched it. Sela stepped beside Rhoen, blades lowered, her expression stunned. You didn't just call for rescue. He shook his head. I called the past. Around them, the jungle consumed their hunters. Silently. Without joy. Without cruelty. With memory. Mara's voice crackled over a distant loudspeaker. You think this changes anything? You think this wins? Rhoen looked up into the smoke. No. But it ends it. The orb pulsed one last time, then dimmed. And just like that, the silence returned. Later, in a den carved deep beneath the forest's roots, Sela bandaged Rhoen's arm in silence. He watched her carefully, her motions slower than usual. You're sure it's safe here? He asked. No signal. No light. No path in or out that isn't grown. Good. He leaned back, tired but calm. Sela sat beside him. Her eyes weren't glowing anymore, they were soft. Focused. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. So, he said, we broke the galaxy a little. She smirked. It needed breaking. Rhoen smiled. Now what? She tilted her head toward his chest, to where her hand rested over his heart. Now we build. He looked down at their joined hands, then farther, to the slight curve beneath her armor. It wasn't visible. Not yet. But it was real. I don't know what they'll call our child, he said. What they'll be. Sela leaned into him, voice low. Alive. That's enough. Above them, Orvan's sky burned clean for the first time in decades. The stars were visible again. No lies. No filters. Just space. And a future. The end. Ashfall protocol complete.